It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the Always On Point podcast. I'm your host, Baxter Colburn.
Say what?
Wait a minute, Kristen. That doesn't sound right. Try again. Wait a minute. I'm in charge today? What's going on?
You're in charge today.
Why am I in charge today?
Because felt like it was about time to get to know Kristen.
I think so.
I guess that's
People have been asking.
Yeah, they have been.
There's questions about it, and we have talked about this a long time. You did an intro episode about you really early on in the beginning of your podcast. So, but that was very much kind of about your career and a lot of that other stuff, right? So today is a little bit more of a deep dive, maybe a little bit more about your story and some of that, information, right? But
yes.
I think it'll give people a nice peek behind the scenes a little bit, right? About who Kristen is and the fact that, someone's asking you questions. You don't know the questions I'm going to ask you.
Don't know the questions.
You gave me a general concept, but you were like, yeah, whatever you want.
Whatever you want. No limits.
No limits. Should I go really easy? Like, what's your favorite color? Like, what is your favorite color?
I'm one of those people that have multiple favorite colors.
Me too.
So I have a favorite color I like to wear.
Okay.
I have a favorite color I like to decorate with. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
So it's different.
That's
it's
fair.
Very different.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm a royal blue fan. Big blue fan. So
big blue, like it.
About that. Yeah. I feel like the questions people probably want me to ask are more along the lines of mortgage lending in your career and the real estate world as a whole, probably.
Yeah.
Right?
Getting to know me, what I've done, where I've been.
Correct. Yeah.
How I've evolved.
So I don't know if I know this answer. I'm curious. You talked about this in a previous episode with Delphine. You went to school for business, right? So was what you're doing now what you were going to be with business, or were you hoping to go on a different track with business and you happened to fall into the mortgage world?
I actually happened to fall into business.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
So I started as an education major.
Oh, okay.
I was dead set from the time I was in fourth grade that I was going to be a teacher.
Okay.
And
I can see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to teach somewhere between K through 5. That
God
elementary school.
Yeah.
I had big ambitions.
Yeah.
And when I was an education major, I went into the school as part of my college education. And I went into the school and we had to start tutoring. Mm-hmm. And I went in and tutoring 1-on-1, loved it, loved everything about it. Tutoring 1-on-10, hated it, decided it was not for me.
Sure.
And I looked at the dean of the education department and sat down and I said, I really appreciate your time, but I've realized that in order to be a teacher, you have to be 100% in it for the right reason. Yeah. And I don't have that passion. And she looked at me and thanked me. And I was like, but I'm leaving your department. And she said, but you are doing it for the right reason. Correct. And for that, I congratulate you. And then crazy enough, because I have a very artsy side of me, went into interior architecture art major.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Never saw that twist coming.
But knowing a little bit I know about you, your interior design of your office and just some of the photos I've seen of you at home, you have an eye for it. So it's very obvious. Like this table, everything here is very cute. You showed us some of your pictures before. You clearly have an eye for it. Where other people are like, I don't know, just throw stuff on the wall and call it a day.
Right. Yep. No, it's always mattered to me. And so that was something I really liked. And interior design of hotels was really the niche.
Oh.
I grew up in a boutique hotel. So, and my grandmother and my grandfather had a very eclectic taste. And so that's where I think where I get a lot of it from. And then, so I grew up in that boutique hotel feel. Yeah. And that's where I felt like that would be the best use where I could still keep my roots.
Sure.
And did a lot of art, loved it. My professor made a big mistake and told me that I'd never get a job or make any money doing anything.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that.
I love when that happens, right?
I was like, all right, well then this is not for me because I have to work and make money.
Yes.
So I decided to go into business management. And my grandfather told me growing up that the family needed an attorney, a real estate agent, or a lender. Because he even taught me how to be an investor.
Oh, wow.
In real estate.
Okay.
And so I decided, okay, I'm going to be a real estate agent or a lender, one of the two, because I don't have the wherewithal to go to school for 100 years to become an attorney. At least that's what it felt like at that time.
True.
And so I ended up getting a job as a lender, and I really thought I'd morph into more of the real estate side, but decided I love lending. And then when I really got good at it, I was able to morph education and lending together for my clients. And I found that was really my niche. And that's what worked for me. And it set me apart against my competition because my competitors were just saying, this is your rate. This is what you do. This is what you get. And that's it. Where I was offering more. And I actually had one of my very first bosses told me I needed to stop educating the client so much and to start just telling them what they needed. And I really hated that advice. It did not resonate well with me. And I shortly after left that position and went to a different mortgage company. And then I was really able to evolve.
Got it.
So that's really where it came from. Long story longer.
Sure. No, and that's interesting because the stories of how people get into what they do are always fascinating. Sometimes it is, my grandpa, my dad, so like everybody did the same thing. So obviously that's why I became a doctor. It's like, got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, and very much in the mortgage, you land here. Like
it
there's
seems like
something that lands you here. You don't grow up saying, I'm going to write mortgages for a living.
I don't know many, 16-year-olds being like, you know what? Mortgage lending.
Yes.
Oh.
Nope.
Tell me more, Susie. Like, okay, interesting, right? Like,
right.
It's funny how you're put in the right spot at the right time, but you also still pull, I feel like, from little pieces, right? Like you're teaching, you're really good at educating, right? I was at a conference with you a couple of weeks ago, and the amount of knowledge that you cast over the audience, which was really good, but you have a great presenting stance about you as well. So you're using those pieces, right? Your interior design, we talked about with your office a little bit, right? So it all compounds as you go along. I remember asking you this before you walked on stage, I believe on Thursday, if you enjoy doing that type of thing. And you were like, I'm freaking out a little bit, like, honestly, like, cause I was like, oh, how you feeling? Like, I'm really nervous. I'm like, but why? Like, you know your stuff. You've been doing this a long time, but talk me through that a little bit more when it comes to educating a big room of 500 people.
It's, it's a lot harder. It was scary because you have 500 agents.
Yeah.
And I can speak and educate in a room of 30, 40, 50 all day long and not lose any sleep, break a sweat. I enjoy it. But the pressure of having 500 people staring at you while you're up on a stage and hoping you can just get one shred of emotion out of one of their faces.
Yes.
That I think was what I was concerned with.
Yes.
And where I was like, are we going to make it? Is that going to happen? And I was really grateful because it went well.
Yes. And Rosie's a hard person to work with, I'm sure, right?
Yes, yep. Rosie's amazing. Shout out to Rosie Vanderloop.
Yep.
She was on the podcast a couple weeks ago on title. So her and I were tasked with, really educating on title and mortgage. Two things that are probably the least sexy in a real estate transaction.
True.
And I feel like we came in and we went about it the right way. And I think we made an impact. And hopefully they'll ask us back. I think maybe.
I think so. I think you did
maybe
okay.
They will.
Yeah.
But no, it was nerve-wracking and exciting and all the same. I've never taken a public speaking class.
Really?
No, never.
Do you enjoy public speaking in general?
I do.
Okay.
So
I'm the same way. I love it.
I do. I really enjoy it. It's capturing that audience and getting them when you can see the look of interest or like, okay, or that aha moment you get when you're speaking to a crowd, it matters. And you know that you're making headway. And so we were able to do that. And upon doing that, I was like, okay, we got it, and probably should think about taking a public speaking class just to make sure I have the right etiquette and those kind of things.
I don't know if you need to, though, truthfully.
No?
Based on the way that you go about presenting, I think you're very sure of who you are at this stage in your career. So I feel like you trying to go back and get that schooling to then like be put into a box.
Sure.
I don't know you to be the gal to sit in the box. You're like, okay, there's the box. I'm going to go over here and then kick the box around, you know?
Yes, that's 100% accurate to who I am.
You know, you don't fit in the box.
Right.
So I feel like the systems, whatever it is that you've done mentally, emotionally, to kind of find yourself in that has been what you found success in.
Yeah. And I think that's been, you know, my upbringing.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a family that was not very wealthy. You know, we did not come from years of money or anything like that. My parents were extremely young when they had me. And, you know, both in high school, not knowing what to do. And my grandpa was very entrepreneurial. And even when I was in elementary school, I was drawn to the entrepreneurial classes versus like home ec.
Yeah.
And my mom used to say that all the time. Like, I can't keep her out of these entrepreneurial, like, you know, classes. And
business of some sort was always a future goal.
It was always going to be a future goal.
Where'd the teaching piece come from?
I don't know. I was just adamant. I must have had a teacher that I really, really loved.
Got it.
That really, you know, there's a bunch of them that resonate with me now as I'm older, but there must have been somebody who just gave me that encouragement and that strength as a kid. That's what I was going to do. And I was going to do that and be that for somebody else. That's the honest answer because I don't have an exact, but I decided, like I said, in 4th grade, I was going to be a teacher and that was it for me.
Interesting.
Which crazy enough, you know, here we are and anything but a teacher in a different way. In a different way. Yeah. Right. But I knew, so let me step back. Growing up in that realm and my parents being young, I watched them fight for everything they had to do. You know, they started in a hole, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're 18. They've got a newborn. You know, they really didn't have help from their parents at the time. And so, you know, they went straight into work and, you know, my mom had to live off the system for a while to help raise me as a baby. And then they grew and I watched them fight through all of that and continue to persevere to a point where by the time I was in high school, they both had phenomenal jobs, high paying jobs. They were, you know, they moved up the ladder. My mom went to college. Like my dad moved himself up his career chain. And that was always like uber inspiring to me because if they could do it, I knew anyone could.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
And watching that fight. Right. And then, you know, just certain people in my world at the time that gave efforts to me where I saw and just drew inspiration from.
Yeah.
And, you know, knowing and seeing the financial hardships my parents had from the moment they started on because they started so young. And young parents are always playing catch up. They're doing the best that they can to raise these kids, right? And things of that nature. So I just really chose to say, okay, I'm going to take what I know and what I've learned from that and the growth that they had and bring it into this industry. And one of the things they were unable to do until I was in high school was buy a home. Because they were always paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. So renters.
And they were renters. We were renters. And a part of me was super embarrassed about it as a kid.
Sure.
Although I had no reason to be. At the time, you didn't know.
Yeah.
And so, but yet I knew how hard they were working. And I don't think I ever used that against them because I saw what we came from and I grew up with them. And, you know, a lot of us, we grew up together. And so I opted for I'm going to do it different and I'm going to start investing young.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing all the things that they were not able to do.
Yep.
And so that's why I did that. And so I tried to take, instead of repeating history, I tried to navigate away from it.
Sure.
And this platform gave me an opportunity to help those people that are even young start out right.
Yeah.
And I can share that with them. I had, you know, really bad credit growing up. I had to dig out of that. You know, you're in college, you're not paying bills. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many, and I deal with those clients all the time where like, I didn't pay this because I was busy partying, and I was that person too.
Yep.
You know, it's just, I wanted to bring it back to light because so many times I've heard through clients through the years were like, oh my God, I sat down with that banker and they told me no, but they didn't give me another option when I sat down with them and was able to tell them yes.
Yes.
And so that's where I really found my power as a lender in being able to morph. How can I take that young adulthood, whether you're a parent or not a parent, or you came from a family that said you would never own, to people who, you know, are 19 and just expect they should be able to buy a $500,000 house at 19. Like, the expectations are different for everybody because everybody grew up a different way. My journey has been, what you want matters. And how can we make that work for you?
Yeah.
And, you know, where it really clicked with me was especially about 5 to 10 years ago when I realized financial literacy had left the schools and nobody had any financial literacy. And my parents didn't have a lot of financial literacy. You were taught not to talk about finances then. And I feel like we've opened the door. One of the good things as we've done over the years is open the door to talking about your finances and how you can bring them up and not being ashamed of them, but how do I change things? And so I always like to gravitate towards that. That was a really long answer, but that's really what it's all about.
No, it's true. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that knowledge is helpful for people to get a baseline of who you are, where you come from. Similar situation-ish on my side, right? My family didn't have a lot of money growing up, and my parents were very honest early on. They said, if you want to go to college, you have to get a scholarship, right? And I was good grades in high school, but I used sports as my way to get there, right? So every family is different, and it wasn't that I was embarrassed by that, but like, same situation, right? Like, everything was always really tight. My parents worked hard. My mom has always worked 5 jobs, right? My dad always had jobs as well. And it was just one of those things. I'm like, okay, like, learn from that. How can I be better about that right now? And to be, you know, in my 30s and have 3 kids and be like, okay, I'm learning from them. I'm learning what I can do, what I can't do. And now how can I set a better future for my kids, right? Because my parents tried their best.
Right.
I feel like I turned out pretty okay.
Yep, ditto.
And now trying to do the same, you know, for that next generation,
Yeah.
right? I want to talk about family for you, because family is so important for
It
you,
is.
right? Your husband's amazing. You have an amazing daughter. I might be biased. I just think that they're amazing people, right?
Thank you. I do too.
You work in a very demanding career.
Yes.
You get calls at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night on a
Yes.
Sunday. You're trying to watch the Super Bowl, and people are asking you not about the halftime performance, but about if their loan is going to get approved, right? Like, how do you put that away, or do you not put that away, or what's that conversation with your husband on a weekly basis and say, hey, this is going to be a tougher week. This is going to be a quieter week. How do you spend time? Your daughter's older now, but like growing up, right? Like, how are you present? How did you balance? Because there's no real balance, right? How did you navigate? It might be a better word.
Navigate's
that
definitely
family
the word, yes.
and career success, because you've had tremendous career success, but also from what I see, you have a very healthy family life as well.
Thank you. There's no doubt it's tough and it's work. I have an incredibly understanding and supportive husband.
Yeah.
And when you have that support system at home that allows, you to do what you love, because he knows I truly love this. He knows I truly love to help people. He is willing to work around that. So we've chosen to make it a lifestyle so that I don't have to feel like I'm leaving anybody out and that I can still do it. One of the blessings I have is that these days I can take, my office is technically my computer bag and I can take it everywhere with me. And I have taken it everywhere with me.
For example, where? Give me some of the wildest places you've helped with what you've done.
Oh,
like, has it been
gosh.
I'm sure there's been a lot of like in your car in a parking lot or whatever, right? But
there's been all of that. My computer has been with me at the racetrack.
Okay.
We
Because your husband's a racer.
He races off-road, for those of you that don't know. So in the summer, we are at the racetrack a lot. And he has built me a nice office in our camper.
I love that.
So that I can do that. And it's like all the people that we're with fully respect the fact that I'm in working for the day, where I can do and support him in what he loves.
Yes.
And also keep doing what I love and maintaining the business. We have been, it has been with me at my daughter's cheer competitions in Florida. It has been with my husband and I in Las Vegas. It has been in Brazil.
Okay.
My computer has been with me. So 4 years ago, and this is a topic for another day, but I was in my husband and I both were in a very horrible car crash. And I ended up in the ICU. and they said, you're going to be here for a while. So I called my husband, or actually he called me. He said, I'm leaving home to come up by you. What do you need? And I said, bring my computer. I'm going to be here for a minute. So it has been with me
all over.
everywhere. The first thing I saw when we got in that accident was my computer. Yeah, it's been in the ICU with me. I mean, it has been everywhere, but I choose that. And the reason why I choose it is because during that time, it got me through one of the hardest times of my life.
Absolutely.
And it kept me sane. So I was one of those people that was like, don't not send the business to me because you think I need time off. I actually need it mentally to keep getting through.
Yeah.
Because those things are what's tough, right? You know, I had a broken back. I wasn't moving for a while. I would have been a nutcase had that normality not been in my life.
Yes, 100%.
And so I'm grateful that I'm able to take that computer with me everywhere. And so that's another reason why, is because we've really made it a lifestyle. And now my daughter, you know, one of the things I wanted to show our daughter was that as a woman, you can be successful in a career and even in a man's world.
A driven one. Yeah, absolutely.
And that it's so important to be independently successful. And for many reasons, especially as a young woman.
Yep.
And that you should never depend on anybody. And the gratitude I have, because now in all the things she could have chosen to do in life, without us literally saying you should do this or you should be this, we've given her the opportunity to explore whatever she wanted to with no pressure on a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, whatever you want to do, we will support. Just do it and be good at it.
Yes.
You know, go into it.
I love that.
And she is now going to follow in the footsteps, and she's just got her real estate license. And, you know, so obviously I didn't scare her too much from it, but I hope it did exactly what the thought was give her the ability that shows that you can do whatever you want to do.
100%.
And you can live a lifestyle around it. It doesn't have to be all encompassing.
Correct. And I think that's a testament though, too. I'm sure she was watching you many, many years in a row, or the people that you interacted with, or the agents that you've worked with, especially those powerhouse females that you work with, right? Like, I can only imagine what that would have done to a young girl being like, I can do that too, right? Like, so I'm excited for her. I really am. I think she's going to do really well in it.
She's going to just be great. I really am. It's a very proud mom moment right now. She's my stepdaughter, but at the same time, she's been with me since she was 3.
Right.
You know, she's been a part of my life, and I just couldn't be any prouder of her. And, you know, just, and I have to give all the thanks to my husband, because without him and his support, this wouldn't look like this. And I think our spouses go far unnoticed a lot in this industry.
Yep.
And the support that we get at home in order to be able to do this.
Correct.
Every day at night, yesterday at 8:00 when, you know, the game's going on. And I'm like, nope, hold on. We're not done yet today. And
pause the commercials. I'll be right back.
Those things happen. And so I give all of my gratitude to my husband and our daughter, because without them and the work-life balance that they allow me to have with it is so true.
Absolutely. I say that about my wife all the time, working in media and marketing and social media, right? Like, my wife grounds me, right? Like, I'm in a very high up and down, very flighty industry at times, right? Where you said there's really no off hours if you don't want there to be.
Right.
But you choose to be, right?
Yep.
I told people this yesterday, and I'm like, I enjoy being married.
Yep.
So I'm trying to set my hours and try to set my responsibilities so I can make sure my wife and my kids know that I'm here, I'm present, and work is great, but it's not my priority, right? Like, I'm home, I'm here with you. That's my focus, right? Yep. Last question for you before we wrap up today. When you're not doing what you do, how do you relax? How do you recharge yourself? What do you do to take care of yourself?
What do I do? This is always a tough question for me, because
that's why I asked it.
Yes.
Because I know there's probably layers to it.
Yes. I do love, and the older I'm getting, the more I love to travel. And it's a travel, like, yes, I love to get away and lay on a beach. There's no doubt. Who doesn't? Especially in Wisconsin when it's 10 degrees outside, right? But learning other cultures. I've really enjoyed learning other cultures. My husband and I have been fortunate to travel throughout you know, the country, and also Brazil and Mexico. We're we have some friends now, and like we've met people all over.
Yeah.
And that's going to expand our travels to learning and going through Europe. But it's not one of those where I just want to go on a resort and sit. Sometimes I do.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But I want to go and I want to know as simple as when I go to Florida, I want to do all the things Floridians do. When I go to Brazil, I want to do all the things Brazilians do.
Yes.
When I go to Mexico, I want to do all the things that
Be immersed in the culture.
In the culture, what they eat, what they drink, what they do for fun. My husband and I actually get in a car and we travel through these places.
Yeah, I love
with
that.
the people in these countries and in these states and where they are, because we want to learn. And I think my grasp of education is just always going to be there.
I love it.
But just that downtime that I can have with my family. And I will say to my team, like, listen, I need this week. I need with my family.
Yep.
I'm off the phone. I'm not opening my computer for a few days. We need this reset. They've always afforded me that. So my hat's off to them, because it's really a team effort here behind the scenes. And then they give me that. So the downtime that I get like that is spent really close with my friends and family.
I love that.
The ones that matter the most to me.
Yep. And those are lasting memories, right? I mean, I feel like the older I get, the more I'm like, give me an experience, don't give me a gift, right? Like I don't need a toy or whatever, a device or whatever it might be. Like I want to go spend 10 days on, exploring Florida, whatever it is, right? Like that is going to be so much more, especially when you have kids involved, right? Because sometimes the kids can be like, remember when we did that, when we, went, 5 days in Montana? Yeah. Wasn't that awesome? Oh my gosh, that was so cool. And they'll be like, remember that puzzle you bought me? Yeah, never touched it.
Never touched it.
It's just, those things go such a long way. So we're a big experience family as well, if we can.
We started that this year, for Christmas. And it was probably because I was yearning for it. Last year was a busy year. It was a crazy year. I made a big job change and career change and things like that. But for the Christmas, and our kids are now older.
Yep.
So we have one, and then her boyfriend. But my husband and I looked at him and said, "Do you want a bunch of stuff? Or do you want to go somewhere and have an experience together as a family?" And they were all, "We don't want any, let's do the experience as a family."
That's so much more valuable.
Yes, it really, really was. And I cherished that time.
Yes.
Because these are the days, they get so old so fast. And, you don't realize when they're like 14, 15, all of a sudden it's like that where they're pulling on your hair and you're like, "Get out of my hair." And then all of a sudden they're 16 and driving. You're like, "No, get back in my hair."
Correct. Like, please come back.
Then
please.
they are off and on their own and living on their own, and you're so proud.
Yes.
But yet you're missing so much. And so those are the times where nowadays I'm like, nope, we're taking this time. So just that downtime and where it's really spent with family and friends means everything to me.
That's beautiful.
And that's where I take my downtime.
I love that. That's beautiful. Well, that's a great way to end the podcast.
Yeah.
You want to close your podcast? You want me to close your podcast?
Yes.
I mean, you were a guest on my show. That's your show. I don't know how this works, right?
Well, and I know we've done this before, but Baxter has done an amazing job. He does all the legwork on this podcast, and I thank him so very much for that. And apologize for my squeaky voice. There's some stuff going around. So thank you for those listening going, what the heck's going on with that? But no, in general, thank you.
Yeah,
because
pleasure.
I do think for anyone who has given me the opportunity to work with them as their lender or as their finance person that they question or whatever the case may be, because I answer a lot for a lot of people on a lot of different topics. Thank you. And for those of you who haven't given me a shot yet, who are wondering, I do think it's important that the person genuinely and behind the scenes. And I think that that's what we're really trying to portray is our entire team is built on people who want to make the lending world a better place.
Absolutely.
And to do better by our clients and for our clients. And so that's important to get across. So I appreciate you switching seats today, Baxter, and giving me the opportunity to share that, because there's something that feels better being questioned than just
it's funny how
delivering
that works.
it.
Yeah, anytime. It's a pleasure to do it. So thank you for asking me.
Thank you. And for those of you joining again, I just can't continue to thank you enough. Like, subscribe, share, and as always, thank you for being a part of Always On Point Podcast here with Kristen Ambos.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No